Hello, all my beautiful souls. It is Jake Paul come at you live from the It's Me Not You podcast, joined by my beautiful hosts, Rachel Garrett and Melissa Neely. Hello, loves.
Hello.
How is everybody?
We're doing great. Fantastic.
Oh my gosh, thank you. So, my loves, today we are talking about an interesting topic. And what we really wanted to touch on today, or me at least, was how do we work around, let's say we learn from a teacher, we learn from a resource, and then all of a sudden they double back. They jump tracks, they change their mind, and they go down a different path that maybe conflicts with what we learned, whether that's energy healing, whether that's something psychic work or magical work.
Mhm.
In this case, I'm talking from the perspective of somebody. Shout out to all my friends who took a Doreen Virtue class.
What?
Um, so, as for me personally, as a lot of you know, I am a certified angel therapist, and my teacher was Doreen Virtue. Some of you might not know that recently in 2017, Doreen decided to jump tracks and she went down a little bit of a different rabbit hole and kind of rebuked spirituality, rebuked angel work,
Mhm.
which honestly was a little bit of a it was a little bit of a difficult time for me. I really looked up to that teacher. I really loved a lot of what she shared early on. And I mean, she gave me my foundation. From there, of course, I've taken it into my own way and I've turned it into my own flavor, of course. But yeah, today I wanted to talk about, what do we do when your teacher no longer subscribes to what you learned? And how do we still find empowerment and how do we still find discernment in our work
Yeah,
in the light of that?
yeah, that's a really good point, Jake. I mean, I also took Doreen Virtue's courses. I have a lot of her oracle cards, and to hear that she's like, nope, none of these are good. Throw them all in the trash.
Hmm.
It was like, well, do I still use them? Like, what do I
Hmm.
do? What do I do? I mean, I have one of her books. It's the Doreen Virtue collection. And for me, it's like a resource of angel information. And
Hmm.
like, I didn't throw it away.
No, because I mean, listen, you can rebuke it all you'd like, but the angels don't just stop existing. You
Right.
know, the work doesn't just disappear miraculously.
And what about for you, Melissa? I don't think you took any
I
courses.
didn't take her classes, but I do use, I mean, those were all the main cards that I use, the
They were.
angel cards. That's how I stepped into it. I'm comfortable with angels and learning angels. But I also think that we have to remember that our teachers here are human and
Hmm.
they're going to go through things in their life. And that's why it's important not to put them on pedestals. Because when you put them on a pedestal, it hurts, when
They come down.
they come down, or maybe they have jealousy towards you, or they just no longer support you in your path. But that's also when you have to realize that that was part of your path. You needed that person to get you to that point, and now it's time for a new point. So I've really been with the only person that should, or the only teacher that should be on a pedestal are the angels, the guides, those on the other side that are looking out for us. And that's also, well, I'll tell people that I teach too, I'm not a pedestal. I don't know it all. I just know what I know and the way to present it best. So I'm not a guru of anything.
I mean, how many gurus have we seen in the last couple years that have really taken a fall? Like have been accused of horrific crimes, and it's like, wait, I thought you were of the light. I thought you were a good person. And then to
Hmm.
hear you're part of a sex cult, like it's shocking. I'm sorry.
It
Like it's
happens,
true.
okay?
Hello.
It
But
was
I
one
mean,
time.
but I got down that rabbit hole, guys, and I didn't know what I found. But no, I mean, really, it's shocking. Like when things kind of come out of the cracks and out of the woodwork, and you're just like, wait, what? And you hear about beloved spiritual teachers and leaders that have like again like are racist or just they promote things that are of they're I don't even know I'm like I'm losing my words because it's firing me up, but it's scary. And I think to Melissa's point, we have to practice discernment. And when people do kind of fall off the pedestal or their house crumbles, it's like, one, we should show them compassion
Mhm.
because they are human and maybe they're going through something that they are going through something that we don't know. and then I think extract pieces that we still hold and true to us and that resonate with us because that's our truth, and then
Mhm.
maybe find a different mentor. I don't know.
Well, it's hard because this isn't, I mean, it's becoming more common to be
Yes.
able to be open and to share your gifts.
Yeah,
But when you find a group, it feels like home.
it does.
And
Mhm.
because you're being accepted for who you are completely, and then I do think, we do need to learn from a lot of different people. Our souls have many different lives, many different experiences, and you can't get all of that from one person. I think many teachers are important. But I also think that when you become so, oh gosh, this is home, I'm accepted, I don't want to
Yeah.
go anywhere, we're like getting kicked out of the nest, like the little bird, and it's like, oh, well, okay, no, you really need to get out of the nest. So I'm going to make this hurt. So you start flying.
Well,
Mhm.
and I think I'm not sure, Jake, if you've experienced this, but I know Melissa's experienced this and I've experienced it too, where you've had spiritual teachers that as you evolve and your skills grow, they then kind of turn on you and then it's like, bye. Like, and then it's just like, well, wait, but what happened here?
Yep.
Like, and it's like, I don't know if it's jealousy, if it's envy, if it's their ego that kind of takes over. Melissa, how do you feel? Like, what do you think happens there when you have a mentor that turns into kind of an enemy? I don't know what to say enemy, that maybe is too harsh, but
No, but it's hard because they become mean.
yeah.
And you end up finding others, and it's like you feel like you have your own little survival club of
I'd
Mhm.
like to talk about the support group.
right, you do from that. But ego wise, it's like, was it well, first you go into, what did I do wrong? Am I not good enough? Like, what's wrong with me? Why did that happen? I thought I had a place that was safe.
A home.
Um, and then you really step back and you're able to see, well, okay, it was time for a new teacher. So when that person was like that to me, I found a new teacher who I love, and I learned all of my shamanism. I probably would not have stepped into that if I hadn't had the first one be as mean as they were, but it grew in the meanness. And I do think that spirit was kicking me like, you need to go somewhere else. And that was the only way
That you would
for that
listen.
to happen.
Jake, have you ever experienced that or have you ever seen that experience in others?
I haven't necessarily experienced that myself, thankfully, but I have definitely seen it throughout the years working with many different clients. And, I think that in a way, even though, I don't necessarily travel the country or anything, but being in this community, we have connections far and wide. So we kind of get to keep our thumb on the pulse. And what I will say is that I've definitely seen a lot of instances of, a lot of what one of you just said, where it's kind of like when the teacher feels as though that the student is maybe coming up to the same level as them, and
Yeah.
then all of a sudden it's perhaps competition. Because I think that there's an interesting ego thing that happens every once in a while where it becomes like a business thing, where it's like, oh no, now we're trying to step on toes or something. But I have a hard time relating to that point of view just because as somebody who does teach workshops and does mentor
Yeah.
peeps, I have no problem with admitting with, listen, we've done all the teaching that I can offer to you. I can nod you towards this person who I think is an excellent resource in this area. Or, being honest just as a teacher of like, okay, cool, we've came this far. I think it's time for you to soar. I think it's
Yeah.
time for you to give it a shot.
But
So
yeah. I think like I don't know about you guys, but I know for me, like I just want to help you with your training wheels. And then as soon as the training wheels are off, you're free to fly, like free to move forward. And it's the same thing with sessions too, because I kind of feel like I love a yearly check-in. Let's see how things are going. Let's check in to see what progress you've made, where your energy's at. Let's give you maybe some clarity or whatnot. But then when, I feel like, I'm sorry, I'm going off topic here. When people kind of keep coming back in the same over and over, I'm not doing them any help. I'm not doing a good service, you
well,
know?
you know what? I mean, I think there's a lot of intersection between the morals and ethics of being a teacher, and then also even talking about the effects that, like,
Yeah.
having an unethical fallout
Yeah.
from the work that you were doing. I think that there's several ways to handle that if you were going to switch tracks. I
Yeah.
don't think to publicly defame the body of work that you put out there. I think that is a whole can of worms in and of itself. But I mean, to what you were saying about like the yearly check-ins and stuff, I think that it's in our best interest as teachers to make sure that we are checking, in with ourselves and also
Yeah.
checking in with our peeps and being honest and being like, listen, I'm here to provide you, for me personally, I'm here to provide my peeps with the tools to listen to your intuition and feel empowered, because all of the sessions that I'm doing is to validate for you what you already know and validate your path moving forward, maybe answering in some questions and putting in some puzzle pieces in between for you. But it's really not pulling any rabbits out of the hat, you know? So I really like to give people the tools. And if you want to come back to me for a check in a year, beautiful. I'll see you in a
Please
year.
do. Yeah.
Yes.
And
But I mean, I feel like I'm not doing my work well, or I'm not even getting my job done if I am still working with a client who feels that they need to check in every 3 months,
yeah.
you know? So that tells me that I've got work to do. I've got some, damage assessments that I've got to take a look at on my end.
And it could come to, maybe we need to look in and say, okay, are they really hearing the message that they need to hear? Is my delivery need to be modified, changed? And I
Mhm.
want to kind of go back to what you said. Like, when Doreen Virtue did jump tracks, it was pretty shocking to the spiritual community. And it was
Mhm.
like, like, I mean, and I agree with how she maybe just all of a sudden like shifted so rapidly and so suddenly. It was almost scary. Like, it was just like, well, what should I believe in this? And I'll tell you, I have family members that kind of jumped on her train and was like, yeah, I don't believe in this stuff anymore. I'm a born again Christian. And then for me, it's like, well, you're doing the devil's work, And then it's like, that was hurtful. But I mean, it's just, it was very shocking, and it was hurtful.
But you know what? I gotta say at the same time, I am very thankful that the contrast was so jarring, because that was really easier for me to be like, oh,
Oh,
this is clearly not the same person that I learned from, that I engaged with, that I
yeah.
purchased work from, things like that.
Good point.
Had she have taken a different route and kind of slipped these things in subtly under the guise of still being that channeler and teacher,
Ooh,
I think it would have really muddied the waters for a lot more people. But I
ooh,
think
Right.
because she had such a clean
clear
cut.
cut.
Yes. I think it was really easy to be like, okie dokie. I think for me personally, it was easier to grieve it,
Yeah.
you know? But again, I think it all comes back to, either way, for any of our listeners that maybe have purchased her work or have her Oracle decks on their altar right now or in their space, we can still work with it. Check in with yourself and ask
Yeah.
yourself, do these tools, do these teachings still reflect my values, my truth? Or am I feeling called that I have to go kind of look in different directions, vet the resources, maybe look into a couple different points of view, and then gather my tools again, then reassess and be like, okay, where does that leave me? I
Yeah.
think if anything, it kind of almost saved the generation of kind of angel therapists into not just regurgitating the workshops or regurgitating the works and the books and all of that stuff. I think it also kind of pushed everybody out of the nest and really called everybody to have to find your tools, find your voice, and find your point of view in the field. How do you feel? Now you do the work, do the channeling. What are your teachings? What have you learned?
Yeah.
You know?
It is interesting. And I think that is a really valuable point of, definitely tuning within and seeing what your truth is. I mean, I know that I've had a couple of spiritual mentors that I've, invested large sums of money in and gotten certified in their classes. And then it's kind of like, when I've reached out to them, it's like, I'm done with you. You paid your money and I'm good, and move it forward. And it's like, what? Like, so
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of, like I know in another episode we talked about the spiritual commercialism, and then
Mm-hmm.
I have to think, well, was I just another cog in the machine, or was it an ego thing, or but it's the same thing. It's forced me to kind of forge my own path and kind of be like, all right, well, I got this. I can be okay. I'm good. I got my community. I got my peeps. I'm good. I don't need you.
Well, and that all comes to the name of our podcast. It's about us. It's about
Yeah.
our development. It's not on them. I mean, and it is on them. Like Doreen's path that's her path.
Yeah.
It's her. It's not us. And like you said, Jake, it helps us with having to rely on our own inner voice. I think we can learn so much from spirit. And I mean spirit of anything, whether it's animal, it's plant, it's angel, it's ascended, whatever that is, other people's spirit too. You learn from that, and you're not just regurgitating.
And I also like how you said, they're also humans. So we when we put people on pedestals, we forget that they are living a human experience, and that they may have trials and damages and traumas that we're unaware of. Maybe they have tax problems. Maybe they have, I don't know, other crap that's going on that we're not aware of.
Listen,
And,
exactly.
maybe, who knows? Like, or
I mean, I do find that interesting. I know Rachel's laughing because when she talked about it, I'm like, well, I'm kind of getting the feeling that she owed a lot of back taxes. And I wonder if all of a sudden her taxes going away had anything to do with her changing spiritualism. But that's just my crazy hypothesis.
crazy hypothesis. Not assumed, we don't know what's real.
No, it's just, it's a wild idea that I had. I just think that find your way when it comes to things and use your own discernment and listen to the higher voices for what you're getting. And if people change paths, well, they're going to change paths. The thing I love about the three of us is we're not afraid if we get a client and our message, we're not the right receiver.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think people come to, I had always thought people come to us because we're supposed to be the one giving them the message.
Yeah.
But we might just be the person who knows the person to give them a message.
That's true.
So now when I start to connect with somebody, it's like, I do ask Spirit the question, am I the right person to help them?
Mm-hmm.
And if they're with me for a session, well, I'm going to do the best and say, for follow-up, you might want so-and-so because they do this, or you need somebody for this, for this aspect too.
I totally agree with that. And I also think a point is that it's okay to move on from your mentors and maybe cycle into a different mentor or a different group and, kind of test out the waters and test out the flavors. If you've received all the information and knowledge that you need from that person, it's okay to move on. It's okay to find, a different person to help you out or light you up or, I think that people need permission that it's okay to be like, I'm good, thank you.
And learn from multiple people at the same time. Just don't get so stuck in learning or taking workshops or classes that you're not connected to spirit.
Jake,
Absolutely.
That's not a dig towards you.
I know, I'm just about to say, Jake, you're gonna say something. Your face lit up.
Oh, I had two things and then I forgot. One of those were I was just like one of those things like earlier on, like from all the workshops and from the books, I had always heard in the back of my head from spirit, you are never going to get the permission you are looking for in a workshop.
Ooh, I love that.
Never going to get the permission you are looking for in a workshop. And I love seeing throughout the years all my clients that I work with that I get to see kind of cross that bridge from client to coworker of sorts, people who open up their businesses because they got that boost of strength or of affirmation behind themselves, are now energy healers or spiritually driven artists or public business witches, things like that. I love seeing that and I love watching people cross that kind of bridge and then become coworkers of sorts. I love to see that because I really just love to see that because I feel more comfortable that I know that I'm promoting an environment of growth and that I am never too big for my britches to be like the say so of anything. I don't know everything. I know approximate knowledge of what I do know.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not afraid of saying, listen, I don't have that answer right now. I'm okay with that. I channel spirit and channel says what they want to say, and I can't control what they don't want to answer with me.
True.
But I do know a gal who could.
That is true. Anything else you guys want to add to our when our mentors jump track podcast episode?
Just that it can be difficult and reach out to another person when you're going through it because there is a grief process that happens with it, from the denial to the anger to all of it. So making sure that you reach out and talk to somebody to know that you're on your own true path.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that. You actually just bring up a point. I did have a spiritual mentor that I did have a separation from, and it really knocked me off my path for well over a year, and I lost confidence. I lost the ability in myself, and I pray that no one has to go through that, and that really trust within and know that your gifts, your voice, everything within truly matters. And when someone's trying to take that away from you, that's something on them and not on you.
And that's where you keep a list of like, what were the good messages that I delivered? I know I don't remember them all, but I remember the impact. you know, of somebody, so I can look back and be like, yes, this is the work that I was given to do. This is my divine path.
Yeah.
And
Anything
listen,
else?
it's the trite and true saying, everything happens for a reason, the good and the bad. You
Yeah.
know, you learned everything good that you were supposed to, every teaching that you walked away with, you met the people you were supposed to, and then even the bad, the way that you were spoken to, the way that the falling out happened, maybe it had to happen that way. So, so that you could be like, for a matter of fact, okay, I'm good here. There's no unfinished business. There's no need for me to jump back in or try to make that connection work, or even if it were to end on good terms, sometimes you might be like, oh, try this teacher out, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But sometimes we could be thankful for when the bridge does burn, you know?
I love that. Well, thank you all so much for listening to another episode of It's Me, Not You. I hope you guys all have a great day and goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.